First Contact Protocol Breach. The Galactic Concord Monitoring Station, K-12, orbited the gas giant Helios IV like a vigilant sentinel. Inside its pristine corridors, Senior Monitor Thexel stood with his forearms crossed, multifaceted eyes fixed on the main view screen. The calm blue of his scaled skin had darkened to a troubled indigo, a physiological response his species couldn't control when agitated. "Magnify Sector 7 Delta," Thexel ordered, his secondary voice box adding the harmonic inflection that denoted command authority. The view screen shifted, focusing on a small vessel moving with surprising speed through the restricted outer reaches of Concord space. Its design was unmistakable, angular, utilitarian, and bristling with weapon systems far beyond permitted specifications for human vessels. "How long has it been in our space?" Thexel asked Junior Monitor Velsha, who was frantically working her console. "Approximately 26 minutes, Senior." It breached the boundary at full acceleration, with no warning or authorization codes transmitted. Thexel's breathing slits narrowed. Humans had only been granted provisional membership in the Galactic Concord 50 solar cycles ago, after centuries of careful observation. Their inclusion had been controversial, too volatile, too unpredictable, said many council members, but their ingenuity couldn't be denied, and their expansion had reached a point where integration seemed wiser than continued isolation. The treaty had been explicit. Human military vessels were confined to their own systems unless given explicit permission during joint exercises or humanitarian missions. This vessel, whatever it was, represented a clear violation. Have they responded to hails? "Negative, Senior. We've transmitted on all frequencies, including their Arctic radio bands. The vessel maintains course toward the inner systems at high velocity." The monitoring station's alert status automatically elevated, red warning lights bathing the command center in crimson. Thexel initiated the emergency protocol, his decision pathways clear. This was no mere border incursion. This was potentially the first act of aggression from humanity. "Alert Defense Fleet Command. I want interceptors launched immediately." Aboard the UES Horizon, Captain Alina Reyes gripped the armrests of her command chair as another system failure alert blared through the bridge. Blood trickled from a gash above her eye, but field medicine would have to wait. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Lieutenant Marcus Chen looked up from the tactical station, his face illuminated by flickering displays. "Engines at 63% capacity. Shields failing on the aft sections. Communications array completely destroyed." "They're still following us?" Alina asked, though she already knew the answer. "Yes, Captain. 3 signatures, maintaining pursuit vector approximately 6 light minutes behind us." The bridge crew worked frantically, rerouting power and attempting repairs on critical systems. The Horizon wasn't supposed to exist. A prototype vessel built in secret orbital facilities around Jupiter, incorporating technologies humanity had been developing behind the Concord's watchful eyes. Not out of malice or preparation for war, but from the deep-seated human instinct that someday it might need to defend themselves without alien assistance. Today had proven that instinct correct. "What about the data package?" Alina asked her science officer, Dr. Kavita Sharma. Kavita's normally composed features were strained with exhaustion. "Fully encrypted and ready for transmission, Captain. But without comms. We'll need to deliver it in person." Alina stood, steadying herself against the chair as the ship shuddered. "Navigation, time to the nearest major Concord outpost." Ensign Rodriguez checked his calculations. "At current speed, 37 minutes to Helios Station, Captain." Alina nodded grimly. "They'll intercept us before we get there." The view screen suddenly flickered to life, showing a formation of sleek Concord interceptors moving to create a blockade ahead. Their distinctive iridescent hulls reflected the distant starlight, beautiful but deadly. "Captain, we're being hailed," Chen reported. "Audio only." "Let's hear it," Alina said. A melodic, multilayered voice filled the bridge. "Unidentified human vessel. This is Commodore Lizverin of the Concorde Defense Fleet. You have violated sovereign Concorde space and are ordered to power down weapons systems and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will result in your immediate neutralization. Elena exchanged glances with her XO, Commander Jackson. They both knew what neutralization meant. "Can we transmit back?" she asked Chen. "Negative, Captain. Outgoing communications are completely offline." Elena cursed under her breath. Without the ability to explain their presence, they would appear as aggressors. The Concorde, for all its advanced civilization, operated on strict protocols. An unauthorized human warship in their space could trigger a diplomatic crisis at best, and at worst. "Options?" she asked her senior staff. Jackson stepped forward. "We could surrender, Captain, allow them to board, and risk them accessing our systems, or worse, contamination." Elena shook her head. "Not an option." Dr. Sharma cleared her throat. "We could attempt to transfer the data package to a buoy and launch it toward Earth while we distract the interceptors. They'd destroy it before it cleared 1,000 kilometers," Chen countered. Elena stared at the approaching blockade. In that moment, she felt the weight of not just her crew's lives, but potentially all of humanity's future resting on her decision. "Tactical, do we still have maneuvering capability?" Chen nodded. "Yes, Captain. The new inertial dampeners are still operational." "Good." Elena returned to her chair, determination hardening her features. "Plot a course through their formation. Minimal defensive measures only. I don't want to give them reason to open fire if we can avoid it. Aboard the command vessel of the interceptor squadron." Commodore Lizverin watched the approaching human ship with mounting concern. His species, the Viridians, prided themselves on logical analysis and emotional restraint, but even he felt a flutter of unease in his secondary nervous system. "The vessel is not responding to hails," his communications officer reported. "Curious," Lizverin mused. "Scans indicate significant damage to their outer hull and energy fluctuations consistent with critical systems failure." "A ruse, perhaps," suggested his second-in-command. "Humans are known for their deceptive tactics." "Perhaps." Lizverin studied the approaching vessel. Its design was unlike any human ship in Concorde records, more advanced, more streamlined, with propulsion systems that seemed to defy conventional physics. But why would they breach our space so brazenly if their intent was hostile? They must know they're outmatched. The tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. "Commodore, the human vessel is increasing speed. They appear to be attempting to maneuver through our formation." "Impossible," Lizverin stated flatly. "No ship of that mass could navigate the gap at that velocity. The gravitational interactions alone would tear it apart." Yet even as he spoke, the human vessel executed a series of impossible maneuvers, its engines flaring with an energy signature unlike anything in Concorde databases. The ship twisted and rolled, somehow compressing space around it in ways that defied Concorde understanding of physics. "Target their propulsion systems," Lizverin ordered. "Disable them." The interceptors fired in perfect synchronization, energy beams lancing toward the human vessel. To everyone's shock, the beams scattered against shields far more powerful than any human vessel should possess, dissipating harmlessly into space. In a blur of motion that the tactical computers could barely track, the UES Horizon slipped between two interceptors, continuing its desperate journey toward the inner systems. "Impossible," Lizverin whispered. In the Concorde High Command Center, Grand Admiral Zexora received the report with growing alarm. The unauthorized human vessel had somehow evaded their most elite interceptor squadron without firing a single shot, demonstrating technology far beyond what humans should possess. "This is most troubling," Zexora said to the assembled commanders. "Either humans have been concealing their true capabilities from us, or this vessel is rogue," completed diplomatic liaison Prelna, the only Terran ally present in the room. The avian humanoid's feathers were ruffled in agitation. "Either possibility threatens the peace we've maintained for 50 cycles." The main display showed the human vessel's trajectory, heading straight for Helios Station, one of the Concorde's primary research and diplomatic outposts. "We cannot allow them to reach the station," Military Commander Grutz said firmly, his massive reptilian form towering over the others. "If their intent is hostile." "We don't know their intent," Prelna interrupted. "They haven't fired upon our vessels despite being engaged. They demonstrated technological capabilities explicitly forbidden by treaty," Grutz countered. "That alone justifies their destruction." Zexora raised a hand for silence. "We will not destroy them yet. Not until we understand their purpose." The Admiral turned to the operations officer. "Prepare to evacuate non-essential personnel from Helios Station and dispatch the heavy cruiser division to intercept." Back aboard the Horizon, Alina watched as the damage reports continued to stream in. The miraculous maneuver they'd executed had come at a heavy cost. The experimental drive system was now critically overheated, and radiation was leaking into the lower decks. "Seal off decks 9 through 12, she ordered. "Emergency protocols." "Captain," Dr. Sharma called urgently from her station. "The containment field around Research Lab 3 is failing. Estimated breach in 17 minutes. A hushed silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew what was in Research Lab 3. "Can we reinforce it?" Elena asked. "Not without diverting power from life support," Chen replied grimly. Elena closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. When she opened them, her decision was made. "Set course directly for Helios Station. Maximum velocity. We need to get there before either the containment fails or our pursuers catch up." "Captain," Jackson began, concern evident in his voice, "the Concorde will see that as a direct attack on the station. Then we'll have to make them understand before they blow us out of the sky." Elena's gaze hardened. "Because what's following us will do far worse if we don't." As the UES Horizon accelerated toward Helios Station, the three mysterious vessels that had been pursuing it from the edges of known space also increased their speed. Unlike the human ship or Concorde vessels, these craft absorbed light rather than reflected it, appearing as void-like silhouettes against the stars. Inside them, something ancient and hungry watched with unfathomable patience. The hunt had led them to rich new feeding grounds. Soon, very soon, the harvest would begin. On Helios Station, the emergency klaxons began to sound. The approaching darkness. Helios Station blazed like a jewel against the backdrop of space, its graceful spires and crystalline domes housing representatives from over 30 species. Emergency protocols had been activated, causing a controlled evacuation of non-essential personnel. But the station still maintained its dignified presence, a symbol of the Concorde's unity and advancement. In the station's central command hub, Station Director Nixala monitored the approaching human vessel with mounting concern. A member of the ancient luminary, her translucent skin glowed with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with her emotional state, currently pulsing with rapid waves of anxiety. "Status of the evacuation," she asked her operations chief. 70% complete, Director. "Shuttles are departing on schedule." Nixela nodded, her attention fixed on the tactical display. The human ship, now identified as the UES Horizon, was approaching at a velocity that bordered on reckless, its energy signature wildly fluctuating. "They're either desperate or insane," muttered Security Commander Drax, a bulky Tellarite whose species was known for their bluntness. "No sane captain approaches a civilian station at combat speed." "Concorde cruisers will intercept in 6 minutes, reported the tactical officer. The communications panel suddenly lit up. "Director, we're receiving a fragmented transmission from the human vessel. Audio only, heavily distorted." "Let me hear it," Nixela ordered. The command center filled with bursts of static, punctuated by fragments of a human voice. "Urgent warning. Discovered hostile. Beyond the rim. Pursuing us. Containment failing. Need immediate. Not an attack." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving an eerie silence. "Analysis," Nixila asked her communications specialist. "The radiation signature suggests their communication array is severely damaged. They're broadcasting on emergency power using a makeshift antenna. Nixilla's bioluminescence shifted to a thoughtful blue. They claim they're being pursued. Drax snorted, a convenient excuse for treaty violation. Long-range sensors detect nothing following them, the sensor officer confirmed. Yet Nixalla felt a prickle of unease. Humans were many things, impulsive, emotional, unpredictable. But they weren't stupid. To risk interstellar conflict by sending a warship into Concord space, something extraordinary must have happened. Prepare a secure docking bay, she decided, and alert our containment teams. Director. Drax protested. Regulations prohibit. I'm well aware of regulations, Commander, but something isn't right about this situation. Her luminescence pulsed with certainty, and I'd rather bend protocol than miss a genuine threat. Aboard the Horizon, Alina Reyes received the docking clearance with visible relief. They're letting us in, she announced to her bridge crew. Prepare for emergency docking procedures. Dr. Sharma, assemble your research team and all evidence for immediate transfer. We may only have minutes to make our case. Chen looked up from his tactical console, his expression grave. Captain, 3 Concord heavy cruisers on approach. Their weapons are hot, and our pursuers. Still no visual confirmation, but quantum disturbance patterns suggest they've accelerated. Estimated arrival in 23 minutes. Alina's jaw tightened. Not enough time for a proper evacuation if they don't believe us. The ship shuddered violently, throwing several crew members to the deck. Warning lights flashed across every console. Containment field in Lab 3 down to 17%. Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with fear. Divert emergency power from non-essential systems, Alina ordered. Already done, Captain. It's not enough. Alina looked around at her crew, the best and brightest Earth had to offer, all volunteers for a mission they'd been told might be one way. They'd discovered something terrible beyond the rim of known space, something ancient and patient that consumed everything in its path. And now they were humanity's only warning system. Commander Jackson, you have the bridge. Maintain containment as long as possible. Alina rose from her chair. Dr. Sharma with me. We're going to meet our welcoming committee. As the Horizon docked with Helios Station, a tense delegation awaited them. Nixella stood at the forefront, flanked by security personnel and medical officers prepared for any contingency. The airlock cycled open to reveal Captain Alina Reyes, still bloodied from earlier injuries, and Dr. Kavita Sharma, clutching the secured data core. I am Captain Alina Reyes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. Alina began formally. We apologize for our unauthorized entry into Concord space, but we face an emergency that threatens all sentient life. Director Nixalla stepped forward. I am Station Director Nixalla. Your actions have brought us to the brink of interspecies conflict. Captain, your explanation had better be compelling. We don't have time for diplomatic niceties, Alina said, urgency evident in her voice. Something is following us. Something we encountered beyond the Omega Rift. It destroyed Research Outpost Demeter and consumed an entire colony world in less than 48 hours. Sensor scans detect nothing pursuing your vessel. Drax interjected skeptically. They wouldn't, Dr. Sharma replied, her scientific authority evident despite her exhaustion. These entities exist partially in subspace. Conventional sensors can't detect them until they shift fully into normal space, and by then, it's too late. Alina gestured to the data core. We have evidence. Sensor logs, biological samples, everything we could salvage before escaping. But more importantly, we have a live specimen on board in a failing containment field. Nixilla's bioluminescence flashed with alarm. You brought one aboard this station. We had no choice, Alina insisted. It's the only way to prove what we're saying. But the containment is failing. We need your advanced technology to secure it before. A violent tremor ran through the docking section, cutting her off. Emergency alarms activated throughout the station. What was that? Drax demanded. Elena's communicator crackled. "Captain." Jackson's voice came through, filled with static. "Containment at Lab 3 has failed. The specimen has escaped containment and is." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Lock down the docking bay," Elena ordered. "Now." Back on the horizon, chaos reigned. The specimen, a swirling mass of what appeared to be black sand-like particles, had escaped its containment field and was rapidly consuming everything in its path. Unlike ordinary matter, it didn't simply destroy, it converted, absorbing both organic and inorganic material and growing in both mass and apparent intelligence. "Fall back to emergency positions," Commander Jackson shouted as the entity engulfed a junior officer. The man's screams cutting off as his body dissolved into more of the black particulate matter. The security teams fired phase disruptors, but the energy weapons had minimal effect, merely scattering the particles momentarily before they reformed. "Seal the bulkheads," Jackson ordered. "Contain it to Deck 4. But the entity was learning, adapting. It flowed through ventilation systems and power conduits, bypassing physical barriers with disturbing ease. Within minutes, the Horizon's crew was fighting a losing battle against an enemy that grew stronger with each defeat. On Helios Station, Elena and Dr. Sharma briefed the emergency council hastily assembled in the secure command center. "We call them harvesters," Dr. Sharma explained, displaying horrifying footage from the colony world. The recording showed entire cities being consumed by rolling waves of the black particles, buildings and people alike dissolving as if dipped in acid. They appear to be a collective intelligence composed of nanoscale particles capable of breaking down matter at the molecular level and converting it into more of themselves. "How did you encounter these harvesters?" asked the Vexillian representative, his insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. "We were exploring beyond the Omega Rift," Elena explained. "Earth has been conducting independent research into quantum slipstream technology. The Horizon was our prototype vessel." Murmurs of disapproval rippled through the alien representatives. Such research violated at least 3 Concord treaties. "Our intentions were peaceful," Elena insisted. "We were searching for resources, not weapons. But we found something else. Evidence of an ancient civilization completely eradicated. And then we found the harvesters." On the main screen, Dr. Sharma displayed more footage, a massive structure drifting in space, seemingly composed entirely of the black particulate matter. "We believe this is their mothership, for lack of a better term. When we approached to investigate, smaller vessels detached and pursued us. We barely escaped, but not before one of their scout ships managed to attach a portion of itself to our hull. The specimen you brought aboard," Nixila realized. Elena nodded grimly. "We thought we could contain it for study. We were wrong." An urgent alert interrupted them. The station's security chief activated a holographic display showing the docking bay. The Horizon was now partially enshrouded in swirling darkness, and the black matter was beginning to spread onto the station itself. "It's breached containment completely," Elena said, her voice hollow. "And now it's on your station. Evacuate all personnel from that section," Nixila ordered immediately. "Initiate emergency protocols. Conventional weapons won't stop it," Dr. Sharma warned. "We tried everything. Energy weapons, projectiles, even nuclear charges. It absorbs the energy and converts the material." "Then what can stop it?" demanded Drax. Before anyone could answer, the station's long-range sensors activated. On the tactical display, 3 void-like silhouettes appeared at the edge of the system, moving with impossible speed toward Helios Station. "The harvester ships," Elena whispered. "They'd found us." As the situation on Helios Station deteriorated, the Concord cruisers that had been pursuing the Horizon changed course, moving to intercept the approaching void ships. Unaware of the true nature of the threat, they prepared standard first contact protocols alongside defensive measures. Fleet Commander Vex Torres stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigilance, watching as the unidentified vessels approached. No response to hails on any frequency, reported his communications officer. Their design is unlike anything in our databases, added the science officer. Sensors cannot penetrate their hulls. Vextora frowned. Maintain defensive posture. Prepare for. Before he could finish, the lead void ship accelerated suddenly, closing the distance to the Concorde formation in seconds rather than minutes. Without warning or provocation, it fired, not energy weapons or projectiles, but a stream of the same black particulate matter that was consuming the horizon. The particles engulfed the nearest Concorde vessel, the steadfast Resolve, spreading across its hull like a living shadow. Desperate transmissions flooded the communication channels as the crew fought against an enemy they couldn't understand or repel. Within minutes, the steadfast Resolve had been completely consumed, the black matter swelling and reforming into another void ship. All vessels, open fire. Vextora ordered, horror evident in his voice. The Concorde fleet unleashed its formidable weaponry, but as Elena had warned, conventional attacks proved largely ineffective. Energy weapons were absorbed, projectiles consumed. The void ships advanced methodically, unleashing more of the black particulate matter with each attack. Back on Helios Station, Elena watched the unfolding disaster with grim resignation. This is just the beginning, she told the assembled representatives. The harvesters won't stop until they've consumed everything in their path. They've been doing this for millennia, moving from galaxy to galaxy, system to system. How do you know this? Asked the Traxian ambassador. Dr. Sharma activated another holographic display, showing ancient ruins discovered on the colony world before it was consumed. We found these records in the remains of a civilization that appeared to have been wiped out thousands of years ago. They documented the harvesters' arrival and their futile attempts to stop them. If weapons don't work, what does? Nixilla asked, her luminescence now a determined gold. Elena and Dr. Sharma exchanged glances. We have a theory, Elena said carefully. The harvesters seem to exist partially in subspace. We believe they can be vulnerable when forced fully into normal space. And how do we force them? A specially modulated graviton pulse, coupled with a quantum resonance field, Dr. Sharma explained. It would collapse their subspace aspect and potentially disrupt the bonds between their particles. We were developing the technology when our containment failed, Elena added, but we don't have the resources to complete it. Nixilla's bioluminescence pulsed with decision. We do. As the void ships decimated the Concorde fleet and the black matter continued to spread through sections of Helios Station, a desperate alliance formed. Human ingenuity combined with advanced Concorde technology in a race against extinction. In a secure laboratory, Dr. Sharma worked alongside the station's top scientists, modifying Concorde graviton emitters with human quantum field technology. The theory was sound, but untested, a desperate gamble born of necessity rather than certainty. Meanwhile, Elena coordinated with Concorde military leaders, developing tactics to draw the harvesters into position for the experimental weapon. The plan would require perfect timing and considerable sacrifice, with no guarantee of success. As the final preparations were made, Elena took a moment alone, staring out at the stars through a viewport. The weight of all that had happened, and all that might still come, pressed heavily upon her. Captain Reyes. Elena turned to find Nixilla approaching, her luminescence a calm blue despite the chaos. Director, Elena acknowledged. The weapon modifications are nearly complete. I know. I just spoke with Dr. Sharma. Nixilla moved to stand beside her at the viewport. Your crew has shown remarkable courage and ingenuity. We had no choice, Elena said simply. There is always a choice, Captain. Nixilla's glow shifted to a thoughtful purple. Your people chose to develop technologies against Concorde regulations. Then you chose to bring warning rather than retreat to your own territory. Elena met the alien's gaze. We're part of this galaxy too. Whatever our differences, some threats transcend politics. Nixilla nodded. Perhaps humans understand something the rest of us have forgotten. The Concord has enjoyed peace for so long that we've become complacent, resistant to change. She gestured toward the stars. Out there, the universe doesn't care about our treaties or our comfort. No, Elena agreed. It doesn't. A communication alert interrupted them. Captain, Director, came Dr. Sharma's voice. The weapon is ready. As they turned to leave, Nixela placed a luminescent hand on Elena's arm. Whatever happens, Captain Reyes, know that you have changed things. For better or worse, the relationship between humanity and the Concord will never be the same. Elena managed a tired smile. Let's make sure we're all still here to figure out what that means. Unlikely alliance. The Void ships had consumed 2 more Concord vessels and were closing on Helios Station. Inside the station's strategic command center, representatives from a dozen species gathered around a holographic display showing the modified weapon, a massive graviton emitter array coupled with quantum resonance field generators. The theory is sound, Dr. Sharma explained, but the effective range is limited. We'll need to deploy it directly in the path of the harvesters. My remaining vessels can provide escort. Fleet Commander Vextora offered via holographic projection, his image occasionally distorting as his flagship sustained damage. Not enough, Elena countered. The Void ships would target the emitter immediately. We need a diversion. Nixela studied the tactical display. What about the station itself? The primary research module has its own propulsion system for positioning experiments. Station Engineer Krell, a mechanoid with intricate circuit patterns visible beneath translucent skin, performed rapid calculations. Possible, but separation would compromise station integrity. Casualty projections would be significant. We don't have time for optimized solutions, Elena said bluntly. The harvesters have already consumed 1/3 of the station. Within hours, they'll have enough mass to create another Void ship. Silence fell over the command center as the grim reality settled over them. They were facing an enemy that turned their own strength against them, growing more powerful with each victory. I will lead the diversion team. Commander Jackson volunteered, stepping forward. He had escaped the horizon with a handful of crew before the harvesters had completely overrun the ship. What remains of my crew knows these things better than anyone, and I will command the weapon deployment, Vextora added. My flagship has sustained heavy damage, but remains maneuverable. Elena shook her head. With respect, Commander, I should lead the diversion. The horizon was my responsibility. No, Captain, Nixela interjected, her luminescence now a resolute white. You and Dr. Sharma are too valuable. You understand the enemy better than anyone. I will command the station module. Objections rose from around the room, but Nixela silenced them with a gesture. My decision is final. Prepare the separation protocols. The next hours passed in a blur of desperate preparation. The research module was modified to serve as both bait and delivery system for the experimental weapon. Critical personnel and evacuees were transferred to the remaining station sections and departing vessels. Meanwhile, the harvesters continued their inexorable advance. The black matter had consumed nearly half of Helios Station, learning and adapting with each new system it encountered. The entity was evolving, becoming more than the sum of its parts, a hungry intelligence bent on consumption. In the final briefing before deployment, Elena addressed the combined human and alien forces. What we do today isn't just for Earth or the Concord, she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. It's for all life in this galaxy. The harvesters don't discriminate. They consume everything. Today we stand together or fall separately. The combined fleet moved into position. The research module detached from Helios Station with a series of controlled explosions, its thrusters firing to place it on an intercept course with the approaching Void ships. Aboard, Director Nixela and a volunteer crew prepared for what would likely be a one-way mission. Divergent fleet, move into attack pattern Delta, Elena ordered from the command vessel. The remaining Concord ships, along with Commander Jackson's task force, accelerated toward the Void ships, weapons firing in a dazzling display designed to draw attention and provoke response. As expected, the harvesters reacted, sending streams of black particulate matter toward the attacking vessels. "Now, Director," Elena called. The research module suddenly accelerated, its modified engines pushing it to speeds that strained its structural integrity. At the same time, Vextora's damaged flagship moved into position behind it, the massive graviton emitter powering up. "Emitter at 90%, reported Dr. Sharma, monitoring the weapon's status. "Quantum field stabilizing." On the tactical display, the void ships altered course, a portion of their attention diverted to the approaching research module. Streams of black matter lashed out, beginning to engulf the module's outer hull. "Containment is failing," came Nixela's voice over the comms, strained but determined. "Prepare to fire on my mark." The research module plunged directly into the lead void ship, a kamikaze attack that seemed to momentarily confuse the harvester entity. Both objects began to merge, the black matter flowing between them in chaotic patterns. "Now," Nixela shouted. Vextora's flagship fired the graviton emitter, the massive energy beam striking the merged mass of the research module and void ship. For a terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, a quantum shockwave erupted outward, washing over the battlefield. The black particulate matter began to vibrate, its subspace aspect forcibly collapsed into normal space. Where before it had moved with purpose and intelligence, now it seemed confused, disorganized. The particles began to dissociate, losing cohesion. "It's working," Dr. Sharma exclaimed, studying the readings. "The quantum resonance is disrupting their molecular bonds." But the victory was far from complete. Though damaged, the harvesters were adapting, portions of the black matter already attempting to stabilize and reform. "We need to hit them again," Elena realized. "A second pulse while they're vulnerable." "The emitter needs time to recharge," Vextora reported grimly. "At least 4 minutes. 4 minutes they didn't have." The harvesters were already recovering, the void ships beginning to separate from the chaotic mass. "There's one more option," Commander Jackson said quietly. His small task force of human vessels moved forward. "The Horizon's experimental drive core. If detonated, it would generate a quantum pulse similar to the emitter." "Jackson, no," Elena protested, understanding immediately. "That's suicide." "We've been on borrowed time since we escaped the colony, Captain," Jackson replied, a sad smile in his voice. "It's been an honor serving with you." Before Elena could object further, the human vessels accelerated toward the reforming harvesters, their shields already failing as the black matter began to engulf them. "For humanity," Jackson's final transmission echoed through the command center before his vessels disappeared into the chaotic mass of the wounded harvester entity. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then a blinding flash erupted at the center of the battlefield as the experimental drive cores detonated in unison. The quantum resonance wave amplified tenfold, washing over the harvesters with devastating effect. This time, there was no recovery. The black particles dissociated completely, breaking down into inert matter that drifted harmlessly through space. The void ships disintegrated, their mysterious composition returning to base elements. In the command center, silence reigned as the tactical display confirmed what their eyes had seen. The harvesters had been defeated, but at terrible cost. Elena stared at the empty space where Jackson and his crew had made their final stand. No words seemed adequate for their sacrifice. "They saved us all." Nixela's voice came unexpectedly over the comms, weak but alive. The director had somehow survived in a protected section of the research module, human and Concord alike. In the days that followed, recovery operations began across what remained of Helios Station and the devastated fleet. The threat had been contained, but the scars, both physical and psychological, would remain for generations. 2 weeks later, Elena stood before the full Concord Council, now convened on the Concord homeworld of Axiom Prime. Representatives from all member species filled the grand chamber, their attention fixed on the human captain, whose actions had both violated their most sacred treaties and saved countless lives. Captain Elena Reyes began the Council Elder, an ancient chronid whose species measured lifespans in centuries. You stand before us having broken numerous Concord laws. You developed prohibited technologies, violated sovereign space, and brought a deadly entity into the heart of our territory. Elena stood tall, her uniform pristine, but her eyes still haunted by all she had witnessed. I accept full responsibility for my actions, Elder. As you should, the Elder continued. However, in light of the circumstances and the sacrifice of your crew, the Council has reached a decision. The chamber grew silent, the fate of human-Concord relations hanging in the balance. Humanity has demonstrated both qualities that concern us and qualities we must admire, the Elder said. Your species' tendency toward independent action and technological experimentation remains troubling. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Yet these same traits, along with your remarkable adaptability and willing self-sacrifice, proved crucial in confronting a threat none of us were prepared to face. The Elder gestured, and a holographic document appeared before Elena. Therefore, the Concord hereby extends full membership status to humanity, effective immediately. Gasps and exclamations filled the chamber. Full membership was unprecedented for a species so recently encountered. Furthermore, the Elder continued, we propose the establishment of a joint research initiative, combining human ingenuity with Concord resources to better protect all our peoples from threats yet unknown. Elena stared at the document in disbelief. Elder, I don't have the authority to accept this on behalf of Earth. We are aware, the Elder said, a hint of amusement in his ancient voice. Earth's delegation is already en route. This is merely a formality and an acknowledgement. An acknowledgement of what? Elena asked. Nixella stepped forward, her luminescence now fully recovered. That the galaxy is larger and more dangerous than any of us previously understood. The Harvesters may be defeated, but they are unlikely to be unique. The Concord has maintained peace through uniformity and caution, necessary qualities, but insufficient against existential threats. Humanity brings diversity of thought and approach. Added Vextora, now promoted to Grand Admiral. You see possibilities where we see only protocols. The Elder nodded sagely. In our long history, the Concord has absorbed many species, each contributing unique strengths. Humans, despite your youth, may contribute something we have long needed, the courage to face the unknown on its own terms. As the ceremony concluded, Elena found herself on a balcony overlooking the magnificent spires of the Concord capital city. The alien sunset painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, a beauty that had almost been lost forever. Nixella joined her, the director's luminescence a peaceful blue. Your crew's sacrifice will not be forgotten, Captain. We have already begun construction of a memorial at the rebuilt Helios station. They would be honored, Elena said softly. But they would also say they were just doing their duty. A duty that extended beyond your own species, Nixella observed. That is what impressed the Council most, I think. Not your technology or your tactics, but your willingness to risk everything for all sentient life. Elena smiled faintly. That's just being human. Perhaps that is precisely what the galaxy needs more of, Nixella replied. Humanity, not just as a species, but as an ideal. Together, they watched as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, a galaxy still full of mysteries and dangers, but one they would now face together. In the depths of space, far beyond the edges of Concord territory, something ancient stirred. The Harvesters had been merely scouts, tendrils of a greater consciousness that had consumed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. The loss of its advance force was noted, analyzed, adapted to. And in the endless void between stars, patient and immortal, it began to move toward the light.